The Senate passed a short-term government funding bill on Thursday, setting up a vote today in the House ahead of a midnight deadline to avoid a government shutdown. Congressional correspondent Kilmeny Dukart is live on Capitol Hill with the details. Kilmeny, good morning.
Emma, good morning. Good to be with you. A continuing resolution to fund the government through December 16th passed easily in the Senate Thursday afternoon. That final vote tally 75-25 with all the no's coming from Republicans. That legislation will give Ukraine more than $12 billion to combat Russia's invasion, billions in disaster relief funding, and a 5-year reauthorization of FDA user fees. Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who voted against it, says Democrats are still spending at the same levels despite historic inflation. In a statement, he added, "This just kicks the can into a lame duck session where accountable, recently fired legislators will be able to vote without consequence to recklessly spend even greater and more wasteful amounts, all while driving inflation even higher." Well, Texas Congressman Chip Roy has been critical of his colleagues in the Senate and has been urging all of his members in the House to vote no on this. Roy tweeted, "The GOP must fight to block Dems from spending billions more funding federal tyranny before the next Congress comes in." Representative Roy and 42 House Republicans say not one more penny. Republicans who want to cry in the corner about shutdowns should join them and stand up for America. In a Dear Colleagues letter, Roy highlighted nearly 70 items in this CR that he believes will continue to fund open borders, public health policies promoted by the Biden administration, and what he calls destructive energy policies. While we know, Emma, that the House leadership is united in voting against this, it is still expected to have enough support from members to pass today. We're expecting that vote around 2 p.m. Eastern.
All right, and then it would head to the president's desk. Kilmeny Dukart at the Capitol. Kilmeny, thanks so much.
Well, Ken Buck is a Colorado Republican congressman, member of the House Judiciary Committee. He's joining us live now. Congressman, thank you so much for taking the time. A big day, a big vote here. I want to show this headline to the viewers from Politico saying this: Senate passes funding bill to likely thwart weekend shutdown, and it reads in part, quote, "The stopgap would fund the government through December 16th. The relatively smooth path to final passage comes after Senator Joe Manchin pulled his controversial proposal to ease energy permitting from the bill amid broad opposition from Senate Republicans and a handful of Senate Democrats." I'm curious to know, and we'll dive into Manchin in a second here, but I'm just curious to know where you stand on this. Clearly, it got more than 70 votes. There were Republicans that voted with this. Will you be one of them?
I will not, no. This is terribly irresponsible. First of all, we should have the CR, if we're going to have a CR, and make sure it goes until next January, February timeframe, so that Republicans have the opportunity to craft the CR when we take control of the House and Senate. And secondly, it's far too much money. We are suffering from inflation. We're suffering from high interest rates. The Fed is acting in one way to try to bring the economy slower, and the Biden administration is speeding up the economy with these expenditures. So they're really operating at cross purposes. It makes absolutely no sense to pass a CR like this.
Yeah, a lot of money being spent, obviously, to Ukraine, disaster relief, which is needed. Obviously, what we've seen in Florida, what potentially could happen to South Carolina as well. But I wanted to talk the politics. What happened to Senator Manchin? He was a no for the better part of this Inflation Reduction Act until this pipeline permit came into play. He got on board, essentially getting this thing through. And then that plan of his was scrapped, at least for now. Schumer says it will get it at some point. But how much politicking is at play here? And did Senator Manchin get played on this?
Oh, I don't think he got played. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. He asked for something that he knew wouldn't get the support of progressive senators and progressive members of the House. It won't pass in the future. But it was a way for him to say, I got what I wanted, and now I will cave and hurt America with these outrageous spending bills.
Do you have any frustration with essentially moving this to a lame duck session where there are going to be a lot of outgoing members, either way you cut it, pushing this into December?
Yeah, I think it's a terrible move. They always do this. this will go right up until Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Members who want to get home for Christmas will sign on to this package. It is wrong. What we should do is kick it over to when Republicans have control and we can craft the spending bill and send it to the president.
Final piece I wanted to touch on, if I can. This latest antitrust bill, or bills, if you will, aimed at holding big tech accountable, like Google, YouTube, Facebook, all of those. You and other House Republicans are introducing this. Here's the headline from Newsmax, and it says Representative Ken Buck targets big tech as GOP leadership wobbles. It goes in to read in part, quote, Buck, the lead Republican on antitrust issues for the House Judiciary Committee, is set to bring a package of 3 antitrust bills to the House floor on Thursday. But some in the Republican House leadership are not only shying away from taking on big tech companies like Facebook and Google, but taking active steps to protect their market controls and dominance, end quote. And the article there referencing your colleague, Ohio Republican Congressman Jim Jordan, who came out against these antitrust bills. He did put out a statement as to why. But talk to me about this. If Republicans take back the House, they have promised to go after big tech. We've heard grandstanding from Republicans saying this. But is there now division on this in terms of taking on big tech?
Oh, I don't think there's division at all. The antitrust bills create competition. That's the last thing big tech wants. They are monopolies, and they want to continue their monopoly status. What some in leadership are talking about doing is attacking big tech with Section 230, attacking big tech with privacy laws. Big tech is not opposed to those because big tech has huge lawyers, law firms that will represent them in court, and they can string out any lawsuit based on 230 or privacy for years and years. They're deathly opposed to the antitrust bills, or they are fighting as hard as they can to avoid competition. And that's why they spent so much money in members' districts in the last few months, and why they have really worked the members' offices with their lobbying team. So it is clear that big tech is afraid of antitrust, big tech is afraid of competition. These other measures may be successful. They aren't going to be as successful as competition.
And just getting it back for the American people to understand, there are a lot of Republican voices out there that feel censored, or that they were kicked off of a lot of these platforms. They can't express themselves the way others, or they worry about censorship in America. Where does that stop? I'll close with this. Have you spoke with Congressman Jordan regarding this, and what has he said?
Absolutely. And what America needs are 5 Googles. We need 10 Facebooks. We need the same thing that we have with cable news, the same thing that we have with newspapers. We get viewpoint censorship when there's a monopoly. We don't really care if some liberal network censors a conservative voice, because we have conservative voices or conservative networks that will allow us to speak. The competition is what gives us the answer to censorship, especially viewpoint censorship.
All right, we'll leave it right there and continue to follow that major story. Congressman Ken Buck joining us live. Have a great weekend, Congressman. Thank you.
Thank you.
No crooked establishment.
None of that twisting the truth.
No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They let
me decide.
Newsmax.
Real news
For real people.